I would say to really study your customer. A lot of people start a business because they love what they do. There's something that they love doing, and they feel like they could do it on their own. They don't have to report to a boss. They could do it their way, quote unquote. A lot of good rationale there, and you have to be passionate about what you do because it's hard, and you have to get up some days not really knowing where your next revenue is going to come from, and feeling like you might shrink and you're trying to grow. You have to keep after it, and you have to continue to believe.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Jeff Roberts. Jeff started his journey at age 13, realizing he wanted to go into IT, and went down that path in college. After graduation, worked in IT for a larger business, and then worked as a CIO for 5 businesses over the course of part of his career, and then became interested in consulting. So when the last business that he was the CIO of got acquired, he decided to start his own consultancy around 2019. And then that got hit with COVID, and to a degree stopped the business for a few months. Also had a few contracts that ended up falling through. And then after that, started building and growing the business, learned some lessons about how to manage marketing spend along the way, and continuing on continuing on with the business today. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Jeff.
Thank you. Very glad to be here, and I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely excited to have you on. So, well, I just gave a quick run through to a much longer journey. So why don't we rewind and unpack things a bit? So tell us a little bit about how things got started at around age 13, thinking you wanted to go into IT.
Yeah, it's I got, like many people at that point in the early to mid 80s. I was given a home computer for Christmas one year, and really just became enamored of that. And they couldn't do very much back then, but what was clear to me is they were going to get better. They were going to get stronger, faster, and I wanted to be part of that. And it was I may not have had the full vision of everything that they would change, but I knew enough to know this was going to change the world. And it certainly has. So have not regretted that career decision at a young age, even at all.
So now, as you got into that at the young age and decided you were interested in computers and going down that route, kind of walk us through how things evolved. You went off to college and studied that, or got a degree, or kind of walk through a little bit more as to how the journey got started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, went to the University of Tulsa, and did study that. Began my career there, doing programming, data modeling. I got into project management, and along that way was offered a chance to relocate with a promotion to move down to Houston, Texas, which has been home for me ever since. After a year in Houston, I was given a chance to enter IT management on the organization chart, so to speak, with the staff under me, etc. A bit of a fork in the road with the career, but I did make that change, and that's another decision I really have never regretted. Um, I like the technical work and being at the keyboard and solving problems, but human problems I have found even more complex and even more satisfying when they get solved.
Gotcha. So you went in, got the degree in college, came out, started working for a large business. Now, if I remember our conversation a bit before the podcast, you've kind of gone through or went through an iteration of different companies working for their IT or managing those departments. So maybe kind of or walk us through a little bit as to what that progression was, or kind of what you did over that space of the career.
Yeah. So generally, for whatever reason, I, I, I entered management in a finance company and stayed pretty much within finance and real estate through my career as a CIO. Kind of was promoted multiple times at that first employer. So from director level to VP, senior VP, and eventually to the C-suite. That company was sold to a competitor and closed. So I moved to another company and then another and another. As often happens, like 3 of the 5 companies I was CIO for closed their doors due to being sold. So interesting view from the I guess the downside of capitalism, if you will, from the human perspective that sometimes happens. But the experience was great, and certainly seeing the M&A process from that perspective also gave me some good kind of background and preparation for the consulting world as well. So from that career, you mentioned that the last company that I was CIO for was a real estate company, and we were acquired by a large multinational that did not have a need for me or an open chair, so to speak, on the leadership team when the music stopped after the acquisition. So I decided at that point, rather than try to find, CIO role number 6, that I was going to start Innovation Vista. This was mid 2019, and began as I was ramping down my responsibilities.
Maybe just to dive in before you get too much into starting Innovation Vista, which we definitely will. You
Yeah.
said, okay, because I think was it 19, 20 years somewhere in there that you worked in the, for different or for IT for different businesses over the course of your career. Is that about right? Or kind of what over what space was that?
Yeah, so total career from 91 to 2019, I guess 28 years. In leadership from 1996 to 2019. So something like 23 years as an IT leader before founding Innovation Vista.
So now, so working, there's always a difference, and there's overlap and similarities, but certainly also a difference in working under someone or working for someone, within a given business. And even if you're in management or, towards the top or that versus going out on your own and having to deal with all of the issues, everything from, getting the business up and going, marketing and sales, management, hiring, firing, legal, finances, taxes, and all those things. So kind of as you or where you've been into in business for, or work or you're doing or working for larger corporations, and a lot of them ended up getting acquired for that space of time. Kind of how did you? What was the motivation for saying, "Hey, I'm going to shift gears and go out on my own," as opposed to finding kind of the next opportunity within another business to kind of go along that path?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess it had been on my mind for a while. I had an opportunity. One of my tenures as a CIO was a turnaround situation where I sort of saw the satisfaction and the challenge of going into an IT shop and a company where there were lots of problems and staff departure. Like 90% of the staff at this company had left. Just enormous challenges there, and I really enjoyed that challenge, and finding a better plateau, the opportunity to really cast a vision for what should IT be and reinvent IT in the organization. So I had that. I had an interim stint as well, where I had the sort of the challenge of grabbing the steering wheel with the technology group for a short period of time, navigating them through a merger acquisition process. So I'd seen that, and I realized about myself, I like those kinds of challenges. Um, I also, I guess, in terms of my life situation, my kids had grown to an age where most of them were out of the house, off to college and out of college on their own. That made a big difference as well. I sort of had an inkling that being an entrepreneur would be a little more all-consuming, a little more stressful, and knowing that just my wife and myself were kind of reliant on that to work was a good feeling. So all of those things sort of came together for me to make the decision that, I've been thinking about it a while now is the time to try this. And in retrospect, you mentioned COVID, starting something, really launching it officially in December of 2019 was horrible timing for an entrepreneur right before COVID arrived in the world. Didn't know that at the time, obviously, and I will say it wasn't all horrible. There were some silver linings with COVID, but that's the timing I chose. So here we are.
No, and if I think obviously there'd be a lot of different decisions or paths that people would take had they anticipated or known COVID and what that might look like. And hindsight's always 20, but nonetheless, you got started now. One or maybe just backing up just a little bit, but a follow up question to that, which is, as you're deciding, okay, I'm going to go out, sounds like the timing might have been good, kids are more or mostly grown out of the house, it's you and your wife later on in the career, maybe have the the financial ability to at least say, hey, wanted to go out and do my own thing or go out and take my own path. I'm going to take this as an opportunity. If not, I can always go back and work for someone else, type of a thing. So now as you're kind of making that decision, was it just, hey, I'm going to basically go out and do the same services that I've done for others, or I'm going to niche down or go in a different direction, or kind of how did you go about deciding what direction or what path you take for the business as you're getting things set up?
Yeah, another great question there. I think my idea was to use some of what I'd had some success with as a CIO, and offer that to small and mid-sized companies. I think generally, some of what I found is in the modern era here, the digital era of business, that being an IT leader is really as much about being a business leader who happens to know technology as it ever has been. And that trend, I don't know that all of our competitors really recognize that. I've talked to over 1,200 freelance CIO consultants in order to build our network of 400 that we rely on for delivering for our clients. And the reason the 400 are in the list and the 800 others are not is because so many, even senior level IT executives and consultants, see the role about the technology itself. They're very focused on architecture, methodology, processes, having an elegant platform, right, and doing IT right. Those are good things. But the way I see this, and those that are kind of with me in this team of 400 plus, we see those are good things to the extent that they deliver real business impact for the organization. And there sometimes are reasons to do IT on the cheap. There's sometimes reasons to have a simple solution rather than a platinum plated solution, right? So that kind of mindset is very familiar to business leaders everywhere. Everything is ROI based and opportunistic and what makes sense for a given strategy. That does not really cross the mind of very many technology leaders, unfortunately. So bringing that mindset to the mid-market was part of my idea. And then the other focus, I guess, I wanted to bring is top line impact. There are a lot of firms that speak about automation and efficiencies and taking costs out of an organization through computer systems and what they can do. And those are good, right? I mean, again, efficiency is not bad, but our message is it needs to go beyond that. And if you really want to excite a CEO or a board of directors, find a way to grow revenue, find a way to build market share, find a way to take business away from your competitors through creating technology capabilities. And that is very possible. I mean, it's just thousands of examples around us all the time. But again, it's a focus that so many in this space just don't have. And they continue to focus on efficiency, talk about efficiency and automation, their platform expertise, things like that. We are much more kind of marketing and describing our approach based on business impact and including growing top line.
Now, and so with all that kind of in mind, and as you're getting set out and said, okay, that's going to be the direction, the focus, and kind of what you're doing. So you start 2019, as you said, COVID came along, wasn't anticipated by I think really anybody, and up until that point, I think the economy and the businesses were humming along and doing pretty well. Now, as that kind of hit the business, or as you're having to deal with that, kind of did that, put a pause on things, make you reconsider? Did you go back to, working for corporate? Did you soldier through, or kind of walk us through a little bit as to how you navigated that right on the cusp of starting the new business?
Yeah. Yeah, they say that you need savings of 12 months before starting an enterprise from the ground up. And I wish I had a year and a half, but I did have 12 plus months, and I was really glad that I did. I didn't give up the vision. I had enough traction early on, and I knew even going into it, I had some uh, potential clients that I'd spoken with. They were intrigued, they were interested. We were talking. I had ink on the page. I'll never forget Friday the 13th of March. Friday the 13th has a new meaning for me now. So Friday the 13th from 2020, I had an agreement signed for a digital transformation planning initiative with a client. And I got a call the following Monday, the 16th, from that CFO saying, Jeff, we can't start something like this right now. We have been talking all weekend long. We have people who are scared to come into work. It just is not the right moment to start some new strategic topic at the company, which I understood completely, right? So, the early interest, I guess, was enough for me to know that I did have a concept that was going to work. And unfortunately, a lot of government programs, PPP, all these things came out to try to sort of level everyone and let them keep organizations together. Those were all designed for companies that had already been in business and had already filed, tax returns the previous year as a company and things of that nature. So unfortunately missed that safety net, I guess, which made a lot of sense to me rather than having to pay unemployment for everybody to try to help at the organization level and keep teams together. But none of that really applied either. So, I continued to try to refine the message. I spent spring and summer of 2020 building my network. So I started, I probably knew 45 or 50 CIO consultants that I had just met in my CIO career, former colleagues and people who had made that transition to begin consulting. From that 6 month period, I quintupled that number and just tried to make productive use of the time. Tried to make a little money trading stocks. The stock market certainly gave some opportunities as people were realizing that this was not the end of the world and that the crash that occurred in March was overdone. So a little bit of financial help there, but the main benefit, honestly, was building the network, and then the eye-opening that COVID itself did with respect to technologies like we're using right now, Zoom, Teams, this idea of video conferencing and getting work done remotely, rather than having to hop in a car or hop on a plane, as the case may be, to be face to face with people for every single business interaction. That was huge for the fractional consulting space, because just the efficiency that we gain and being able to support multiple clients working from home, as most of us do, um, was powerful. And so all of that was, I consider, sort of the silver lining from COVID that set us up from fall 2020 and beyond now to we've grown every quarter since then.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you started out and by no fault of your own, a bit rocky on the front end as you get started, hit COVID, or luckily had the savings in place, and while some of the programs to help ease the impact may not have been available, kind of soldiered through, and then with the intent that hey, this is something that putting COVID aside, and as that starts to go, to recede into the background, you have a lot of good indicators will be successful. So now you build that. So 2019, we're coming up on, 5 years or so that's been in business. So kind of with that in mind, if you were to say now, with that kind of 5 years in the rear view, so to speak, now looking out to the next 6 to 12 months, kind of where do you see things headed? Is it continuing just kind of onward and upward status quo and slowly building things, or rolling out new programs or new products or services, or kind of where do you see things headed over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be in this space. I would say AI, that change has already hit, really beginning 18 months ago, with the launch of ChatGPT 3 in late 2022. Um, from there to now, AI has jumped to the top of our list. So we have a lot of clients in the mid-market space that some of them get an edict from above, if you will. The board of directors or the CEO says, we need to be doing AI. What are we going to do? And they don't know the answer, and they don't really know how to go about finding the answer. There's a lot of hype out there still. It's hard to know what's real. So the value proposition we can bring of having leaders that have run AI programs successfully, stood up departments or run individual projects. So helping to know what's feasible, what's expensive versus cheap, what's complex versus simple, what third-party solutions are viable versus, which things really require a custom solution, if at all. How to handle the human in the loop kind of challenge, right? So do you create AI to fully automate a process or a part of a business, or do you use it as a tool that provides efficient first draft kind of content for human beings to look at and to take it from there to the finish line? All of that are sort of the list of topics that we're talking about with clients and helping them develop an AI strategy. I see nothing but upward movement there. It's already been hot and it's getting hotter. So I think there's still a lot of organizations that haven't started the journey. Many of them are in industries that they don't feel like it was going to have a huge impact. And now they're realizing, even in every major vertical, even ones that rely on property, plant, and equipment, that, the AI is having an impact, whether it's planning, analytics, predicting the future, understanding optimal pricing models, etc. It's just there, and it's growing in its power. So I see that for sure. Not that I want to turn this into only an AI consulting firm, but I think when you think about strategy and leadership in IT in 2024, 25, 26, AI is the top of the list. Then there are continuing challenges for the market, like mergers and acquisitions. I think as the economy sort of picks up, we will see capital markets, private equity is starting to get aggressive again in some areas. So mergers and acquisitions is another area that we're very active, both on the due diligence side as well as post-acquisition integration work and making two different companies' IT work together, or carve outs, as the case may be, where now something that used to be one company is now two that needs IT to work successfully. So capitalism will drive some opportunities for us, I think. And in general, the space is just changing so fast that I think the realization is dawning on a lot of CEOs that they have a blind spot with technology. It's the highest risk area for their enterprise, given how fast it's changing, given the level of impact that it has on capabilities, pricing power, supply chain, delivery chain, just all the way through the business model. Technology is disrupting these areas. And I think the idea of an outside expert who has already been around the block, who's familiar with their industry and who can help guide them, it's sort of the perfect use case for outside expertise, frankly.
No, awesome. And
I
it
have a
sounds
biased
like,
opinion on that,
oh,
but that's what we see, and it's proven over and over again with feedback and testimonials from our clients that we didn't know what we didn't know. Innovation Vista brought this consultant to us that just educated and helped us really understand where we need to go. We hear that over and over.
no, it sounds like figured out a lot of things are good opportunities to expand and grow and to aid people as they're people are transitioning. I'd agree. I think there are limitations to AI. I don't think it's going to replace every worker and every possibility, but I do think there's in a positive way, a good ability to integrate that across a lot of industries to improve the business, take advantage of it, and otherwise make it a better experience for all customers and the business involved. So I think it sounds like that, along with other areas, is going to provide a lot of room for growth. So it sounds
Yeah,
like some great opportunities yet ahead. So
yeah,
now
I
is
agree.
oh, go ahead. Yeah. So now is we have reached the present day of the journey, and even looking a bit into the futures to where things may be headed. Great time to transition to the couple questions I always like to answer towards the end of each episode. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what'd you learn from it?
There are a lot. I wasted some money on marketing efforts that really were aimed at the wrong area. I think the main one I would point to actually relates to how we partner with clients and consultants. So early on, I am talking with clients as they reach out to us, they get introduced to us, or they respond to messaging that we are sending them, however they come. I'm determining where they are, where they need to be. Is it a sort of feeling pain with their current situation, or are they looking for gain with respect to having IT make more of a business impact for them? So I have a pretty good feel before I do a match with the consultant that's best suited to work with them. Early on, I made the mistake of actually papering engagements before bringing the consultant to the table that was going to execute and deliver for the client. And just a novice mistake. If I stop to think about my whole value proposition with this model, is the expertise that they are bringing is unique. Their familiarity with the industry, having been around the block, not just generally, but actually with some of that client's competitors, and understanding, the economics of the space, the common tools and platforms and processes. I ignored all that, right? So I learned the lesson that expertise is valuable not only to deliver, obviously, when the engagement starts, but that expertise is valuable to scope and size the engagement in the first place. So I stopped papering the engagement. I get what I call to the 1 yard line, so to speak. But I will tell the client, look, but before we put a statement of work in front of you, I want to really bring in the consultant that I think is best. I want you to meet them. Equally important, I want them to meet you. And that is so they can also ask you questions of where you are, where you want to be, get a sense of kind of the value they're going to bring to the table, and how much time is that going to be? What's a reasonable thing to promise in terms of deliverables and improvements, et cetera? So that has been tremendously powerful. And there are a fair amount of times, even now, I've been doing this 5 years. There are frequently situations where the gut feeling I have about how something is going to look or how much we can promise is 20 to 30% wrong. And the outside consultant comes in and kind of brings their expertise and shines a light and lets me know certain things are available in the market already. We can leverage that. Certain things are going to be harder than I thought. Certain things are going to be easier than what I thought. And so that has really it's positioned us for success. It's positioned us to have the consultant fully on board with what we've promised the client, and basically jointly writing that with me. And it's positioned the client to really be delighted that their expectations are not only aligned, but generally we set that up to surpass what we've promised them and to delight them. I mean, to blow them away in many cases with the level of the expert we bring and the kind of impact that they have on
No, and I
the
think
IT
that makes
operation.
perfect sense. Kind of as you'd hit on. I think the knee jerk, especially as you're in early on and getting going to businesses. Hey, any business that's coming in the door, we want to make sure to take it. And it's a good, nothing wrong with that. It's a good approach to make sure that you are servicing the clients and keeping the business going and having the money come in. But to make sure that you can have the right expertise, have the right bandwidth, have the right experience, otherwise make it a good experience. I think sets it up so in the long run it is an ongoing relationship is to and avoids the frustration a lot of times that comes along with sometimes not having that the right person or the right ability to fulfill the project they're looking for. Second question now that I'd like to ask is, so now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you give them?
I would say to really study your customer. A lot of people start a business because they love what they do. There's something that they love doing, and they feel like they could do it on their own. They don't have to report to a boss. They could do it their way, quote unquote. A lot of good rationale there, and you have to be passionate about what you do because it's hard, and you have to get up some days not really knowing where your next revenue is going to come from, and feeling like you might shrink and you're trying to grow. You have to keep after it, and you have to continue to believe. But the customer side of that is so important because you have to design your products or services in a way that is priced for what they're willing to pay and that delivers the value that they actually care about, not what you care about delivering, but what they care about. And the difference doesn't seem like it would be that big. It can actually be enormous. So there are several things that, we, starting out early on, I had this, all of the ideas about driving revenue and all the things I love to do. The number of clients that actually are ready to do that is much smaller than I realized. Just they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have stability. We talk about sort of the journey. I developed this after realizing this is the case. So the journey that clients need to go through in order to get to top line impact with technology is first stabilize, then optimize, then monetize, and only then, right? And we draw that as a pyramid because without the other things underpinning the tech capabilities, you're not in a position to monetize your IT. And starting out, that's the funnest thing for me to do. It's just extremely satisfying. It's challenging. Every case is different. They're just really fun. And the consultants that we engage love doing that as well. There's just, we realize we need to
Awesome.
sell the journey. We need to sell the preparation as much as, hey, we can help you, take market share from your competitors with technology. So, I think books like the
That
E-Myth.
makes, I think, perfect sense. And I think that's a great piece of advice and takeaway to kind of get people as they're getting started out on the journey. So well, kind of with that now is we've kind of now reached towards the end of the podcast. If people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be a employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Innovationvista.com. Very active on, there's a way to contact us from nearly every page. No matter what you're interested in talking about, we're happy to do that. Not always looking for clients, right? We're happy to just sort of explore things and brainstorm with business leaders out there as well. Very active on social media for the same reason. So a lot on LinkedIn. You'll find me there, and feel free to reach out on that platform, and I'll respond back as quickly as possible there as well.
Perfect. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business, make a new connection. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you other listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveunicorn.com, apply to be on the show, or apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And along that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else for your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Well, thank you again, Jeff, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you very much, Devin. Appreciate it. And best of luck to you as well.